do, just a few words about me. So Paul already introduced me, but I'm French. I think you can hear it. I'm usually based in Vietnam, but right now I'm in France. And I wish I could drink some beer and eat some pizza with you, but I had to do it from home for this time. Like Paul was saying, 2 weeks ago, I was in Super Week, and I know that a lot of you guys are working in data and analyst, and I really invite everyone to look at Super Week and all the speakers that were there. Most of them have shared that presentation and everything. So there are a lot about data collection, machine learning, data ethics, and security. So invite everyone to have a look at it. So today I wanted to talk about data collection, but also about what I prefer in life, which is series. So I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who, which is a science fiction series. And I've been looking at this series like for the last 8 years or so. So for those who don't know, and you will get the relation and the parallel a bit later, it's just Doctor Who is an alien, basically. He's a Time Lord. He's exploring the universe. He has a very cool traveling spaceship. And basically every episode starts with the Doctor and his team landing on a new planet, in a new place in the universe that is facing a problem, a big crisis. And they never know why they landed here. They just have to figure out what's the problem and solve it. So they always try to understand the situation, question everything. They never make any assumptions on what they know or doesn't know, assumptions on the reason why people are acting in a good way or the bad way. They only analyze what they see, questions everything, and sometimes use magic and specific tools, but only when it's required. So asking questions, acting sometimes a bit crazy and weird, but he always ends up saving the world. So like everyone else, he can get hurt and he needs to regenerate. So what you can see here are the 13 doctors. So every time that he dies, it's just like change his body. So for the last 60 years, it changed 13 times. So I love to think that one day I will be like as cool as the Doctor. Because as a data analyst, I'm kind of acting a bit weird sometimes. I'm obsessed about data. I love accuracy. I love collection, interpretations, and things like this. I solve problems without making any assumptions on how to solve it or what tool to use. I try to not be too confident on what I know or what will work. And I need to understand what matters to others, to my colleague or to my team or to my clients. And sometimes I get hurt and more often than I would like to, but it's life in a work environment. But you need to just get back on your feet and propose an alternative and base solutions. So the main objective is to solve a problem by asking questions and answering the right and having impact on businesses. So basically save the universe. So today agenda will be, we'll start a bit with a context, an introduction on what is data governance. So the definition, state of art, and how others are doing. So we'll show you some results on studies. And then second part will be about the measurement plan, because to me, the measurement plan is the first step of having a sort of data governance. So what's important to your business, and we'll go through an example on how to build it. And last step will be what to measure, because once we have this exhaustive list of things that we want to track, how we make sure and what we decide to track and how to prioritize things. So we'll start with the data governance. So it's a big word, and the definition is it's the exercise of authority and control over any data assets, basically. So here is like the a word cloud of the 8 concepts that are gathered into data governance. But to me, there are 3 main points that are really, really important. That will be the quality, the privacy, and the security. So privacy, because as analysts, that should be something that we are really worrying about. Data collection, make sure that we are ethical with the data and how we use it. Second point will be the security. So once you gather the data, you have to make sure that nobody can access it. And the third would be the quality, because the quality of your data will directly impact your decisions. Unfortunately, bad data just looks like good data. So there is nothing worse than taking the wrong decision because of errors. So the question here is do you have any sort of governance, or do your clients have any sort of governance? Do you have anything in place that ensures that everything that you collect, any data point that you collect, is covering and validating all those 8 points here? So there is no unique solution or answer to that, and every business should have and should create their own governance, but there are like very basic things that you could do that will help you. And to start that will be starting by creating a measurement plan. So if we look at the state of art and what others are doing, this is an analysis, a study that was done in 2017. More than 800 professionals answered that, and they were just asked, do you have any sort of data governance program? And unfortunately, less than 25% have one. And the main reasons why were because of organization politics, or lack of resource, or just a limited understanding of the value. But the problem with that is that it directly impacts the quality of the data. So this is another study that was done by Brian Clifton, that was presented during the Super Week. And what we can see is that because people don't have any sort of governance, then it directly impacts their analytics. And this is like 3 examples of the studies, the results that he showed. And 1 in 5 Google accounts that it tested has PII. So PII is the personally identifiable information. And the problem is with that is that it's against Google policy. So at any time, if Google realizes that your account has PII, they can just terminate your account. You lose everything. And the worst case here is that in most of the cases, the PII is just collecting, but without even knowing that it's collected. Second will be in terms of conversion, less than like 25% of the site tested have properly implemented their conversion. So conversion from tracking or e-commerce, basically. And the problem is you need proper goals to be able to evaluate on how well you are doing. And without conversion tracking, you cannot really action anything, and therefore you cannot improve your business. And the third will be the campaigns, 18% properly tracked. And I've seen that in most of my clients. Unless you have the proper UTMs on all your campaigns, it's the same, you won't be able to monitor or see the performances of each of the campaign. And this is particularly the case like for email or social media, or if you do like paid search, but you do manual tagging, a lot of errors can be done, that's normal. But since you just lose visibility on where your money is spent and if it's worth. So data quality is an investment, and you need to know if your data is solid or you need to fix it. The problem is not so much about the errors in your tracking, but not knowing that there is one. So question and challenge your current analytics implementation so you can uncover gaps and errors in your current measurement. So that's where the measurement plan kicks in. So it's not solving all the problems, but it's already solving a lot, because it will force you to put in place a strategy for your measurements and therefore start to work on your data governance. So what do we call a measurement plan? But before we get there, we need to remember what's the main objective of all of that, because data is great, but it's meaningless if you don't have impact, if you cannot action it to do something. So the ultimate goal is to have direct impact on your business. And to do that, you have to juggle with those three elements. First would be the business expertise. You need to know your business. You need to figure out the best strategy for your business. And that goes through this creation of the measurement part of it. Then you need also expertise in your tools, because unless you know and you are confident with your tools, you won't be able to serve the strategy that you had in place. The tools are meaningless without the strategy. And then the maturity. So maturity will be the communication, the participation, transparency, all this work environment that generally is, if you have it, that's great. If you don't have it, it will be preventing you from delivering. And once you have those three, you can have your own TARDIS. So the small blue spaceship is the TARDIS, and you can just like move towards your impact. From an analysis and digital analytics point of view, I invite you to work in the optimization framework. So this is presented in the book Google Analytics Breakthrough. This is literally my Bible. It's on my bed desk, and I read it every night. And a lot of case studies, a lot of examples and things. So I really invite everyone to read that book. And so the principle here is that data collection is the basis of everything. So you have this pyramid. The top is obviously the impact, because you need to have impact on your business, but you have to go through every single layers before you can reach the impact. So the first one will be the strategy. Find out your measurement plan, develop a roadmap, define your KPIs, your objectives, but also audit your current state of analytics, figure out what is missing. And then from there, you can do on the implementation. So either it's an update of your analytics, or it's deploying new tags through tag managers, or it could be integration of other qualitative tools like Hotjar or Crazy Egg, or anything that will add and that matching with your measurement plan. Then the reporting is all the dashboards, custom reports, the integrations that you need to do. So it serves the data properly to your analysts so they can analyze the data. And with this analysis, they will be able to derive actionable insights, emit some hypotheses on what's working, not working. And then from there, they will do the A/B testing, validate that it's working. And then you look back, you go back to your strategy, you implement the things, you implement the changes, and it's an endless process. So unless you have the collection right, you can't do anything above. So to have impacts in your analytics, you need to have the proper collection, aggregation, segmentation, integration, visualization, and interpretation. But you can't really interpret if you don't have all of the above, of the below, sorry. So if you don't have the collection, you may lose. So this is, I just want to quote Avinash Kaushik, who was, he said like 10 years ago, like, there is one big difference between losers and winners, that winners, they will, before they think data or a tool, they will always have a well-structured marketing and measurement model in place, and losers don't. So we often make the mistake of focusing on the tool. Like, I have Google Analytics and I want to do that, and I find the solutions within it before we even think strategy. So take one step back and start by defining your measurement plan. It will translate and help you to translate your strategy into measurement. So what's the original measurement plan? So it was created like 10 or 12 years ago. I don't remember exactly, by Avinash Kaushik. It's composed of 5 main components. First, you will need to find out and identify your business objectives. Then for each of those objectives, you will have goals. For those goals, you find the right KPI with a target, and then dimensions that will enable you to segment and break down your data to better analyze and understand what succeeded versus what failed. Measurement plan is not static. And that's something that will live and that you will need to update on a regular basis. There is no such thing as the truth. It's something moving and changing and adapting based on your environment and on your team, basically. So this is like 5 steps that you will have to go through. You will always start by the definition of the measurement plan, what I want to measure, how to measure the different segments. Then you document it. And this document phase is to me, one of the most important that we forget. Make sure that the measurement plan is available to everyone, not only in your team, but also shared across the company, because it's the whole strategy that you have in place. So document it in Confluence or an Excel file, could be a document, but make sure it's always keep up to date. Then once you have that, you will be able to split and prioritize the implementation that you need based on the value, based on the cost, based on the priority that your boss put on you. Prioritize, create the implementation plan, and then deliver to the IT team or the agency that will be responsible of this implementation. Maintain, refine, and then restart. So the minimum, this loop, if you do like a very basic implementation, let's say you just have page views and 1 or 2 goals, it will take you 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to go through all that. You define the measurement plan, you implement, you give the specification to IT, they implement, you test them. But if it's more complex, you need e-commerce, you need form submissions, tracking, you will need to have like proper implementation of data layers, then you will be better to split that. So you will have many times this circle, and each will take up to 3 or 4 weeks. So make sure that you don't try to overdo everything in just one, but just split by batches and do at your own pace. So how do we start creating this measurement plan? Before I even start to write anything on the document, I try to understand, especially me, because I'm working in an agency, so I need to understand the business of the client that I'm working with. But even if you are working in-house, start by thinking, we don't care if you know it. What is important is the things that you don't know, this unknown. So reach out, questions everything, and make sure that you have the widest visibility on your business and the widest understanding. Sometimes we are too focused on what we know and what we don't. So this is hard, but you have to put yourself in a 4-year-old child fit and ask questions. There is no magic around understanding things. It's questions. So this is the easy framework, the 5 W's and H. So where, what, who, when, how, and the most important, why. Why that, why is that, why that, and just question everything. So someone is asking for that. It's like, okay, who's going to use that data? When does he need it? Or when was it implemented? What is it for? What is the purpose? Where can I find this data? How can I change that? Why it even exists? Why do we want to collect that? So by asking questions on every demand that you receive, you will validate of you will validate that it's actually worth to include in your measurement. Let's not forget that you are not alone, and that's me talking to myself too. We often tend to work by ourselves and try to understand everything, but you are working in a team. In-house or in an agency, you will be part of the team, and you need to understand that everyone is aiming for the same goal. Everyone needs and wants impact within their business. So try to reach out everyone in the different teams and understand how they work, what is important to them, because ultimately you will have to give your KPIs to your boss or to the customer support or to the product team. So you need to understand on how they work, what is the dynamic and what is important to them. And so you can include that within your measurement. And a good example here is with one of my clients. We were one-to-one. So I was working with him. We agreed on the measurement plan. We were like really happy. I gave him everything he needed, all the conventions for the UTMs and everything. And after a few weeks, I realized that I knew that they had email campaigns, but I could not see anything in GA. And I just realized that this person never shared the measurement plan and the naming conventions across his team. So we ended up having hundreds of thousands of emails sent every month, but being invisible in GA. And this is just because we didn't communicate it with the team. So make sure that you include everyone. So even during the specification part of it, so people kind of understand and share the strategy you are building. And once you have reach out, question everything, make some friends, you will be able to start the writing of the measurement plan. So the first thing is the objectives. So at that point, you should be able to find out the objectives. So what are we hoping to accomplish with this website? What is important to our business? What is important to our customers? What's the core value and unique value proposition that we have? I say dumb objectives. There are two meanings in that. So the first is, you can see the doable, understandable, manageable, and beneficial. But it also have to be dumb, in a sense, dumb, simple. Don't try to overdo your business objectives. Everyone have kind of the same objective. So read around, see what people are doing, and adapt measurement and objectives based on what you can see. So here I just put some examples on like very basic objectives for each of the verticals or industries that you could have. But at In Marketing We Trust, we always end up with the same three objectives, sorry, which are make money, save money, and make them happy. And you can almost apply that to any business or any website. So trying to find out easy objectives or generic objective, not too generic, but keep it simple. And then for each of these objectives, you will need to define the goals. So the goals will kind of put the direction of your strategy. What strings do I need to pull? So how do I get more revenue? How do I reduce cost? How do I improve loyalty? And here it's really up to you to decide with which direction you take. So after the dumb objectives, you need smart goals. So smart goals, because you need to be able to, they have to be very specific. You need to be able to measure that. You need to assign it to someone. It has to be realistic and time related. So the goal itself is not, but then with the KPI and targets and the different segments, you will make sure that this goal is smart. So here I just gave a few examples. So for instance, for the increased revenue, I could have two different strings. One would be I increase the number of bookings, or I increase the average booking price. And both of them will increase the revenue. But in terms of tactics, in terms of what I will action, would be very different. And then on reduced cost, I could either focus on the campaign management, So make sure that I reduce my cost per acquisition, or I could make sure that my site is optimized and my conversion rate is increasing. So with a better website, more conversions, then for the same traffic, I would have more conversion and reduce the cost. Improve loyalty. I just took these two examples would be one, I increase my database. So the number of subscribers that I have. So I will push people to subscribe to my newsletter, or I will push people to have more interactions on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or even on my website, comment things. Once you have those goals, next step will be your KPIs and the target. So the KPI will be the most meaningful metric that help you to understand on how well you are performing against that goal. So if I take the first objective, which is increase revenue, the first goal, which is increase the number of booking, the way I can know if I'm doing better is by measuring the transactions and the revenue. That's the bare minimum. And then my target for that will be in the next quarter, I want 10% more revenue than previous quarter or previous year. That you have to be time related. So decide quarter, semester, a year, decide the time span that you want or that is reasonable for you to implement, but make sure that there is an actual deadline. Because you want from day one to day two reach 10% increase in revenue. You have to give you time to action whatever strategy that you have. And then the other example will be, for instance, on the newsletter subscribers, I would say, I will put here an absolute number, which is I need 100 subscriptions at least a month. And to do that, I will need to make sure that I promote everywhere, that I have campaigns just to push people. And I have to make sure that I have, I don't know, a pop-up on my website that push people to subscribe. So it can be relative, can be absolute, but for each of your goals, you need the main KPI, so the main measurable metrics, the most important, meaningful, and the targets, thinking of also targets in time, so quarters, semester, or year. Once you have KPI, targets, objectives, and goals, next and last step will be the segments. So to be able to break down basically your data, you will have to make sure that you list dimensions that will enable you to drill down and understand what's working against what is not. So for instance, on my second objective, which is reducing the cost, unless I know the campaign, I won't be able to understand if the audience has an impact on conversion. But I also need a dimension that will enable me to break down by location, so the geography. Because I may discover that the wording is important for people in Australia versus the one in UK, and my campaigns have to use different words, even if it's in English, they have to use different approach to improve and have better conversion rates. So once you have that, you have your full measurement, you have all your objectives, all your goals, all the metrics, all the targets, all your segments. Well, basically we usually really happy. So far we started by discussing with everyone, we questioned everything that we knew, we defined the objectives, translated them in goals, listed the important metrics, the KPIs, the targets, we specified the segments, and we have everything that we want. That's great. So this is an example of all the things that I wish, and we agree with the client, and we say like, yeah, that's what we want, that's what we need, that's all the things that we will be tracking, and a lot will be sent to Google Analytics, and also we're going to implement some qualitative tools like Hotjar that will enable me to make some sessions recording or heat maps. So I have like adjusted my bounds, I have like crazy calculating metrics and that evaluate the real time on page, have enhanced e-commerce with funnel, list performance reports, I have like everything. But what at that point, that's great. We have the exhaustive list of what we need, but what really matter? Could we just prioritize things? So a good example is one of my clients. They had like more than 2 million media spend a month on their campaign, and they were using more than 200 metrics to monitor that. And when we started to work with them, we realized that out of the 200 metrics, only 24 were actually useful. And with those 24, we could just give those to management, and it will be essential, and they will be able to understand how well they were doing. So we just divided by 8. And it's not meaning that all the other metrics that we didn't keep were not important, were not meaningful. It's just they were not as important as the other 20. So make sure that once you have everything, start by prioritizing and questioning everything that you need and put an order on it. Less is more. And that's something I always push myself, especially when I start the implementation in Tag Manager. I really love Tag Manager, so I'm kind of creating a lot of tags and things is really cool. But at the same time, it's kind of polluting your data. So how much you can get rid of, how much do you really need from that measurement plan? So keep it simple, stupid. That's the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. So the idea now will be to prioritize and split your full measurement plan into smaller batches. That's where you do step by step. So you have to adapt, obviously, on how you work and then your team. Some people want to go really, really fast. Some people rather go on very small batches. But independently of how fast you go, do step by step. Smaller changes with clear directions are easier to implement. And I mean, marketing and IT, it's always kind of a war in any environment, and you have to make sure that you fit also to their processes. And by splitting it by smaller batches, it might be easier to get your implementation done. So start with the minimum, and enhanced measurements will come later on a regular basis. A good example here is on some of my clients. We created very big measurement plan, and we say we want to do everything in once because we don't want to go back later on that. We just want to do everything. But because of all the dependency of those tasks and the data layers, we ended up 12 months later with having nothing. Nothing was really finished. They started that, they started the form through, they started the e-commerce, but nothing was really finished, and we could not validate or qualify anything. So I would rather start with your minimal viable measurement plan and then build the enhanced measurement step by step. So how to prioritize, and we'll finish with that. This is a Hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, and it's often that the prioritization of your task will depend on who is above you, and that's normal. But the thing is, he shouldn't be. Sometimes they are wrong, and that shouldn't be the only parameter that you take into account to prioritize your measurement plan. So I would just present two frameworks that I use, would be the cost value matrix and the PI framework. So the value cost matrix, it's very easy. You just draw it on the paper, and you just start to put everything that you need based on the cost. So how long it will take, or how hard it will take, or how political it is, versus the value, how much we'll be able to action once I have that. And just by splitting that, it takes you a couple of minutes just to go there. And then you have your order A, B, C, D, and you can start to split by batches. The other framework will be the PI framework. So PI for potential, importance, and ease. So this is a framework that was done by Wider Funnel. And the idea here is that you can integrate, you can see the small hippo on the top of potential. You can actually integrate the voice of the client or the voice of your boss within it. So the potential can be also on how important it is to the eyes of your boss, basically. But then it's only one of the parameter in it. So when you calculate the score, you would just do potentials times is times importance divided by 3. And by doing that, you will have the whole list. So when every audit that I do and I have all my tasks and or my measurement plan, I will always one by one just create those 3. So 1 to 10. You just score them. It's like really up to you. You just score them based on the others, multiply, and it would just give you a quick priority. So let's conclude with Doctor Who quotes. You got to unlearn, and I think that's one of the big learning that I had in the last 3 years, is that we often make assumptions. So forget about everything that you want, you need, you want, and you know, and just understand and listen to the world. So the world you are working with, and make sure that you are attentive to everyone and ask what is important to them. The second thing would be think strategy before you think tool. And sometimes we just, we are so narrowed down to how I would do it in analytics that we forget that analytics is not the right tool. And maybe there is a much better tool and more cooler tool that you could use. So take one step back, don't think solution, think what I need. And then when you need, you may find out different alternatives and solutions to implement. In Doctor Who, there is this small alien that is called the Dalek, and is basically killing everyone. But like anything is to exterminate. And sometimes you have, so we want to be good as the Doctor, but sometimes you need to be bad as the Dalek and kill any failure. So failure could be organization failure, anything that is politic, client failure, sales failure, technology failure, failure to understand your requirements, failure to follow logic, failure to deploy, failure to just even question the approach that you have. Question, challenge everything, and exterminate any failure. And then don't forget you are alone. So you are always working in a team, independently if you are an agency or not. You will become part of the team with your client, and make sure that you try to, we are all trying to achieve the same goal. So make sure that you integrate everyone and participate. So the takeaway here is that a good way, if you don't have any data governance, a good way of starting is by defining a measurement plan. The measurement plan will help you to put on paper what is important and important to your business and how to answer it. But before you get to the measurement plan, you need to understand how your business is working or how your teammates are working, and create the measurement plan, make it simple. So dumb objectives, but smart goals. And then, yeah, think strategy before tools, and make sure that you implement things step by step. Don't try to go too fast. Adapt to whatever resources you have in-house or external resources, and make it step by step on your own pace. And that's all. I would just would like to finish by saying that don't be shy. Take some beer, some pizza, and connect with Freddie and Paul. So unfortunately, I'm not here today. I wish, but it's a bit too early to drink beer in France. But just make sure that you connect with them, ask them questions. I put also my contacts here, so I will be happy to answer any questions now. But if you are too shy, you can always contact me later.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.